Tech Beach Retreat. We are the bridge between the Caribbean and the developing ecosystems of the world. We run the #1 technology conference in the Caribbean. If anybody would like to find out more, please stop me by after this. But today, I'm here with Devang, and we're going to talk a little bit about whether AI is overhyped, what's coming next for founders, how should they be thinking about raising, where the opportunities lie. And I'm super excited to allow Devang to introduce himself.
Excellent. Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Exciting conference. I was just sharing stories about how I learned about this conference, and I just find that this is such a unique conference of people from Caribbean, but also Southern America and beyond. So pleasure to be here. So my name is Devang. I'll just give you a short introduction. I've spent about 10 years at NVIDIA. I was one of the first PM for CUDA. Since then, I moved into a company called Twilio. I was there for about 5 years, helped them build a new business there. And then from there, I moved into a seed stage company called Snorkel AI that was formed out of Stanford. And most recently, I left Snorkel, and I've started my own venture firm called Model Ventures. So far, it's been very exciting. I mean, it's exciting all around as a AI founder, but as an AI investor, I don't think things could get any better to get to see how things are being built and where the next billion, maybe even $1 trillion company lies.
Well, that leads into my first question. Have we hit peak hype on AI? Is it overhyped? Where do you think we're at in that cycle?
Yeah, it can feel certainly like that. I think I had a moment last year where I felt like, okay, this is it. ChatGPT is here, and we're all set for here on forever. But I certainly feel that it's not. I actually believe that it's underhyped. The way I see it is I see AI really rolling out in 3 waves. The first wave is right now the enterprise AI. And it's interesting that how quickly the adoption for enterprise AI is happening. And the reason is because AI fundamentally is changing productivity for enterprises. I mean, we feel it, we see it every day. And that's why there's such a large and strong pull from the enterprise world. But I do believe that this is just a start, and even if this wave is a pretty large wave, there are 2 more waves that we're just scratching the surface on. I mean, consumer AI. ChatGPT, of course, has now, I don't know how many millions or billions of people that are using ChatGPT. But even within that, we're just scratching the surface with consumer AI. There are a few things that we've seen become big, like character AI or Heyday. But still, there's so much more that AI can do for consumers, and that delight yet has not been unlocked. When I say delight, I mean, think about digital errands, for example. Yeah. On average, at least I spend about 2 or 3 hours doing digital errands, looking for new things or booking travel or trying to find and research something that very specifically is related to my lifestyle. And there is a real opportunity for consumer apps to impact and provide that delight into consumer world. And so that wave is starting to take off, but I think it's going to be a bigger wave than even enterprise. And then beyond that, and this is something that I started seeing a lot of signs about, which is what I'm calling deep tech AI applications. So do you have a question about consumer?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask about the errand side. Is that where you think agents come in?
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe agents are going to have even a deeper impact on consumer side of things. I do believe that agents still are in its infancy, or probably even just the infrastructure for agents is starting to shape up. But as far as the consumer application of agents, it's going to require a lot of work on UX and design. How do agents truly allow a consumer to benefit from? And what do they need in terms of that infrastructure as far as developers being able to build the best consumer agents is yet to be found. And just kind of finishing up my earlier point, the third wave, which is the deep tech AI applications, we're starting to see signs, and this was something that I discovered quite a bit when I was at a conference in Zurich earlier this year. So ETH is a pretty significant source of deep tech research. Think about things like robotics or aerospace, material science, biopharma. And what I started noticing was that a lot of startups from these deep tech research institutes are now starting to see commercialization and productization of their technology much faster because they're starting to put AI to work. They're using AI in their operations, they're using AI in their product development, and they're trending towards a faster cliff towards productization. And this is one area where at least venture has kept away from just because it's very capital intensive and it takes a very long time frame to mature. So now we're starting to see that deep tech has become a real opportunity, and as venture starts becoming more interested, it's going to accelerate even further. I do believe that wave is going to be even bigger than the first two.
That's incredible. So we've entered this era dubbed Startups 3.0, all right? Where I was talking to you and you said you believe we're entering into a post-technical founder era. And so we're entering into what you described as a domain expertise era. So help me to understand the distinction and why do you think that that shift has occurred or is occurring?
Yeah, so how many of you have heard about the term software 3.0? Can't see everybody's hands, but I do believe that at least
one guy.
One person has heard about software 3.0. I'll frame up software 3.0. So software 3.0.
Is it like Web 3.0, but
it's primarily an AI-based software development. That's the crux of it. And I think we're seeing software 3.0 kind of take place in front of our eyes, where it's not just about deterministic code, it's about probabilistic code developed through models and data. And models do become the foundation of your data stack or of your tech stack. And there's a different way in which companies are even built around this idea of software 3.0. And this is what I do believe is turning into now what's being called as startups 3.0. These are leaner startups. I mean, at some point, we expect a single-person unicorn startup. That hasn't happened yet, but I think we're trending towards it, a single-founder unicorn startup.
You think that's possible?
I do believe it's possible. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I do believe it's possible.
Wow.
Startup 3.0 also is about, I wouldn't say that it's entirely post-technical founder era. I do believe it's a technical founder learning new domain skills or partnering with domain experts to really deliver the promise of AI. And why this is necessary, it's because on its own, I think AI is a great prototyping tool. Models can allow you to build very simple and interesting demos. But when it comes to making them really relevant to the customer's problems, that's when you start falling into the revenue stream that you need. So I wouldn't say that it's a completely post-technical founder era. I do believe that it's a technical founder meets domain expert and domain expertise era.
Okay. And so what sort of domain areas have you been seeing that excite you?
Yeah, there are a few areas that are continuing to go through this type of maturity. One of them, I would call most of these into the bucket of high trust areas. Think about these as your legacy industries: finance, healthcare, insurance, government. And the reason why these areas are really interesting and they do require this deep domain expertise is because these areas have had a pretty significant build out in terms of what I call legacy software. So in order for a true transformation to take place, you need not only a context of that domain, you also need how to apply AI into these domains in a much more human-friendly fashion. So that's where I'm starting to see quite a bit of large opportunities arise. And outside of that, certainly there's AI platforms, which is building tools that developers need to create the different applications that are going to serve these industries.
Okay, cool. So you're largely on the enterprise side of things, thinking. Have you given thought to some of the consumer side of where you think some of the biggest opportunities would lie?
Yeah, to a degree. I would say that my expertise certainly lies in enterprise, but there are some interesting things happening on the consumer side as well. The way we shop, the way we travel, the way we even go through recreation and entertainment. And in general, the way we kind of live through our life, whether it's a social life or a parenting life or a caretaking life. I think those are a few areas where we haven't seen breakout companies just yet, but I do believe in 2025, late 2025, 2026, we're going to start see some really interesting companies come up.
Cool.
Just a couple of examples, like Heyday is one of them. There's some stuff that Notion is doing. It's quite interesting on the cusp of prosumer. There's this company called AI Video. I think they've done some really interesting things in this domain as well.
So if you were given a blank slate, what problem set would you go after?
Yeah, this is a very fun exercise. I'll flip it. You tell me yours, and I'll tell you mine in a second.
What problem set would I go after? Well, I'm operating more in the developing world, where a lot of the very technical solutions that you're thinking about and you're thinking about executing is inapplicable. So with us in the developing world, we're still trying to figure out how to do all cross-border payments and currencies. You know, we're still trying to do logistics really well. You know, like there's massive logistics models built out here in the US and developing world, developed world, that isn't as well structured and developed, especially within the Caribbean, operating especially between disparate islands, you know? And so I think if we're starting ground up and you're starting with an AI-first mindset, building a logistics company is gonna look tremendously different. I think we could even get to the point, given that we're starting from a unique vantage point where you're leveraging an AI-first company, some of the products and tools that we're able to build can actually be surprisingly a lot better than what you would find in more developed markets, because they're operating from a legacy approach that's trying to adapt. But we're coming from an approach of, oh my God, all of these tools are available to me. This is going to be incredible. And so what we're working on within the Caribbean with Tech Beach is to be able to empower founders that are thinking already about how do we leverage AI from the onset, you know, so they become AI-first companies and not trying to retrofit how do we fit for what we already have, you know? And so I think the kind of scalability that will come forward from these sorts of, this sort of mindset is gonna be incredible. And so I'm super excited to be able to back and find founders that are operating from that sort of AI-first mindset. And so onto your first question that I asked you is, do I think is it overhyped, and where are we in the cycle? I fully agree that we're super early stage and it's massively underhyped. And when you really understand the impact that it's gonna have across every single industry, and then within microcosms of industries as well, because we're speaking about general AI models, but then you're speaking about with Snorkel, you're able to do very specific models for very specific tasks that will be 100 times better than a generalized model. But that sort of thinking and the application of it, I think, is infinite, you know? What I'm more so worried about, quite frankly, is ultimately we're seeing that you're gonna just need less people.
Yep.
You're just gonna need less people. And so while we're super excited about all of the productivity and the impact and the cool things you'll be able to create, bottom line, 100%, we're going to need less people. What do you think about that, and where does everybody go? Because I'm thinking if you need less people, you have less consumers, and then you're making all these great products for who? Who's gonna buy it if they don't have the jobs? Right? Great job, incredible product. Oh my God, you're doing such amazing things. And we did it with one person. Okay? So then who's going to buy it? We'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
But this product is amazing, though. Yeah?
This really interesting question around two points that you made. One is this compounding value. You've already seen all these things built up, and how do you bring those things and compound value into your ecosystem? And then if you keep compounding value to the point where you've compounded so much where you don't need any people to build it up, then who consumes it, or where are the consumers? So let me answer the first question, which is, where do I see an interesting area? Yeah. And specifically in this area, I do believe that it actually doesn't reduce the number of people, but I think it definitely augments what people are doing, and possibly ends up becoming an area where more people would benefit from it and potentially need as well. So one of the areas that I get really excited about and has a similar effect of compounding value is what I call fast chaos markets or fast chaos environments. Think about things that are happening on the retail shop floor, things that are happening in an operating room, things that might be happening in a field environment, where there's a lot of unstructured data floating around. There are lots of cameras, there are lots of sensors, and those environments work with clearly defined processes. And today, a lot of these processes are pretty rigid, and at the same time, humans have to adhere to those processes rather than being able to be more flexible, because there's no real-time loop or feedback as to how to improve that process. So, talking about compounding value, we've seen that in these high chaos or fast chaos environments, there's a lot of software or a lot of technology that's already been built up. There's cameras, sensors, the data is being collected. There is value coming from cloud where the data is at least being collected. Yeah. And now with LLMs, with other kind of foundation models, there's a real opportunity to take and turn this data into something where you can have a real-time feedback into that process. Understand that process more deeply, be able to take some part of that process and automate it, and then third, give feedback to humans and possibly augment where more humans might be needed at some times too.
So what would be the end product then?
So, I mean, it's a system. It's not necessarily just one piece of software, but it can manifest itself as multiple different bits of software with the idea that you have a way to actually simulate a process, implement that process, and then see it in action in a way in which AI becomes just part of that process. So one example of this would be you have a gas station, and today there are lots of gas stations, there are cameras on the gas station, but largely they're there for passive security, right? Or compliance reasons. But what if you could take that camera feed, you could take the actual operator input from the gas pumps, even cash register from the till, and create an environment where you're able to understand, do I need to have more staffing in certain times? If I'm going to create another gas station in the same vicinity, what kind of revenue should I expect from it? If I'm bringing a oil truck that is going to deposit gas, what type of safety measures do I need, and how frequently were those safety measures adhered to or non-compliant with? So there's some really, and this is just one small example. I'll give you one more example. So I was involved with a similar pilot last year with a company called Suzano. They're one of the largest paper manufacturers in the world. Paper manufacturers, okay. Right? And you can imagine that being and operating in Amazon comes with a lot of value, but also a lot of responsibility. And as they are selling this paper into the rest of the global market, they have quite a bit of burden in terms of proving that their operations are affecting Amazon in a minimalistic way. That deforestation is not accelerated by their efforts. They're actually investing into things where reforestation can take place. So for the last decade, Suzano has been building different types of technologies to really prove that they are working on reforestation, and this is how reforestation is improving the health of the Amazon. And initially, they started by putting sensors on trees with some intervals, and of course, that was a very expensive, unscalable endeavor. Next, they started flying drones to capture some data and understand that where's deforestation happening, what are the causes of that deforestation beyond their own operations, and what is reforestation creating, or what kind of impact reforestation is creating. And that went so far because flying drones on some regular frequency of intervals, 3 months, 6 months, to capture local data is also a pretty expensive endeavor. And now they're starting to see that by applying satellite image processing, along with local resident imagery captured through cell phones, along with some sensor data through the previous deployments that they had, they're able to create a much better understanding of the process that their operations is affecting into how Amazon is working, or how Amazon's health is being impacted. So one of the biggest breakthrough was the YOLO model, which was the YOLO model, which is an image-based model, and using
for
that.
us who don't know what YOLO means, I only know you only live once.
That's probably the inspiration for the model too.
Okay.
And it's certainly helping them understand the impact of the forest reforestation, their own reforestation efforts much more deeply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I understand the application. Yeah. And I understand better the application of what you're thinking about when you said chaos-based environments and putting some sensibility or logic to the chaos that happens. There's a lot of data happening in there, but it's not applied in any sort of functional way. And so creating this system that can organize this data to then create outputs with the gas station example and then the reforestation example, good. Yeah, I think that's pretty dope. It feels then almost infinite in terms of the possibilities there. And so it's really then just creating more and more use cases of how this could be applied. Dope. We have a couple more minutes, so let's get a little funny, I guess. Question: What is one of the weirdest or funniest ways you've seen AI applied by a founder or someone in general?
Yeah, I've seen some weird shit, I want to say.
Show of hands, you've seen some weird shit in the way how AI is applied. Yeah? Okay.
One of the ones most recently, I questioned whether it's, what I found this person do was they've taken their child's voice and they've trained the model to read children's stories back to the child in their own voice.
What?
I think it's genius, or
the child is reading
weird.
to the child.
The child's voice is reading to the child,
okay.
And my child I know doesn't like it, but I'm sure that AI is all about personalization. So there are children out there who benefit from it, and I think that's an interesting application of AI. There was another one where I actually like these kind of weird starting points for interesting things, because there was another one where I recently met a founder who's building now a consumer agent startup, but where he started was he wanted to build AI that he could compete against as a single player in games.
Oh, wow.
And it was really interesting as a starting point. I don't think that we're there from a technology yet, or the market has matured in that direction. I do believe that would be very interesting to have something like that. But where he's ended up now is he's starting to build this infrastructure for consumer agents, and that evolution began with a very weird idea.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, all right, guys. I think we've come to the end of this session, and this was very cool. Thanks for sharing your insight with me, man.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.